And we're going to welcome our next speaker, which is Kelly Thorstad. She's the Director of Nursing and Patient Care Services, a nurse executive at the Shriners Hospital for Children in Montreal, Canada. She's had her research focus on the treatment of young adults and optimization of pain, anxiety, and coping management. And the title of her talk is the Assessment of Pain in Children with OI.
Do you hear? Oh, there it is. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for the invitation to be with you. And I have to just do a disclaimer that I am here on behalf of this incredible team. The work that nursing research does at our hospital is led by our nurse scientist, Dr. Simikalis, and so I'm presenting the work that's led by her, but we do this in partnership, and as the Director of Patient Care Services and Nurse Executive for our organization, I get to embark in all of these great projects and journeys and be able to help influence care. But just as the background, I was a pediatric, or I am still, a primary care nurse practitioner. So I do come with some clinical efficacy and legitimacy as well. So we don't need to go too much into the pain reviews in OI. It has already been established today that there's been a lack of literature in the past of pain experiences, pain quality, pain in OI, pain in children, youth, young adults. And so when we embarked on our nursing research program, we realized this was a gap that we really needed to try to address. And as was mentioned as well, we're starting to improve. You're starting to see the studies come out. And thankfully, Dr. Rodriguez did speak about the APPT because I was a little bit worried. What if she said this was a bad tool to use? But thankfully, she's in agreement with it. So in our clinics, we do start with the promise, and I did not bring in those slides, so thank you also for covering them. But we do give our families in the waiting room, not ahead of time, not at home, though I liked that idea that was presented earlier. And when they arrive in clinic, they do fill out the promise pain interference score. But promise is used over a period of time. You need to evaluate the changes. So while it's valuable, it didn't seem to give us enough information clinically of what we needed to address in the healthcare setting. So you need to ask these questions whenever you're having your clinics, when the patients and families you're working with are there, but it's not just about an analog scale, as we've also heard today, that you can rate your pain out of 7 out of 10, but the impact on your life could be very different. So we wanted to use things that would describe pain differently. And as was discussed with the APPT, at least you can get the location, the intensity, but also some of the descriptors. And so the descripting words, we then studied which words were most frequent that were expressed by our patients and children. And then we took that and we put that into a tool, which we'll talk about a little bit more tomorrow, but that we were able to take the tool, and then this is one of the pages in a coloring book that we created of the most common words that are circled by our OI patients. And having it taken from the assessment tool into a resource allows the continued dialogue and the continued discussions. Because when our patients come, we were noticing they're coming for their bisphosphonate treatment often. They're telling you about their pain, but are you really having a discussion about how that's influencing their life? We need to listen. And I think as clinicians, we think we listen. I'm not sure we're always really giving our families and patients the voice that they need. And so having a tool like this, I forgot to show you what it looks like in its final published form, it allows the clinicians to use a resource to have that dialogue and to improve our listening skills and to have it be a more complex discussion. So I think the remainder of what we're talking about with tools, so we're using Promise, we use the APTT, but we've realized pain diaries, having an app, there's options there that we need to start exploring. So we are also looking towards using SciSom OI, which is a tool that we hope will be able to have patients and families use on a regular basis, where they create an avatar, they select an island, they will rank their symptoms and severities, including pain. And the associated symptoms, I think, are important. As also was discussed earlier, it's not just about the pain, but other symptoms that may be associated with the pain that are impacting your life. And then if we're able to evaluate some of that, then we will, if the patient agrees, we'll share that with their parents, but for sure with the healthcare providers in that discussion of how are you doing in your life, what do we need to do to get you more comfortable and back to your activities of daily living that are important to you. So in that whole line of the dialogue and listening and going beyond the tool, we have different tools that we've developed that can help facilitate those discussions. So they're not only specifically related to pain, but each one of them has a pain component that will be used depending on the situation. And it goes back to the one tool does not fit all. So some people will like using our Good to Go passport, which just gives a history of someone living with OI, their different fractures, their allergies, their surgeries that they've had, and their pain experiences. And this you can get, this was in partnership with Sick Kids in Toronto. So I think the slides are available so everyone can see the references, because some of the tools that we have you can all access. We also use an OI transfer summary tool, which specifically has a pain management section, because if you have come to a good way to manage your pain and you're transferring into adult care, it's important that this is documented and that you can share with your new healthcare provider. And we can talk for a whole nother lecture about transition to adulthood, but this was one tool that we had developed to try to help facilitate that process in our very broken healthcare system. Also, our interdisciplinary team created a school transition tool that, again, addresses many different issues, but the whole pain management component is within it. And this is, you've assessed the pain, you know how you're managing it as best as you can. This is a dynamic process that often changes, but if you're going to school and people don't understand your pain or they don't see it, then at least this gives the person living with OI something that they can share with their teacher or share even with their friends at school. And it just gives that openness of a dialogue to start the process to increase the understanding of what you're living with. So I think I was quick today because I didn't have to go into so much detail about what APPT was. So thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. But always, we just want to thank every supporter that we have for our nursing research program. I'm blessed with resources to be able to be part of the Shriners system. And with that, we are able to have additional funding to be able to do the work that we do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Are there any questions?
Oh, okay. One right here.
Hi, I'm an occupational therapist from the UK, and I was really interested in the system tool that you're using. I'd just like to hear a little bit more about it.
So it was already created. Ardrey's previous work was in cancer research, so it was already created there. So we're converting it all now to with OI. I believe the initial paper's on the OIFE website, but as soon as it's available, our goal is to share and to be as open as possible. So we'll continue to publish all of those resources on the OIF and OIFE websites so that they can be available for anyone who would like to use them. And we'll talk more tomorrow, but the book and another book you'll see tomorrow are actually on Amazon and from a U.S. perspective, Barnes & Noble, et cetera. So they're available out there.
In how many languages is it available?
In OI Color, OI Learn?
Languages, yes.
English, French, and Spanish for sure, but then we have a lot of partnerships across the world, so we're working on more. But those three are established now, and I think the English and French are actually published, but the Spanish, we're just validating the translation.
And am I allowed to translate it into German?
Perfect, we'll talk after, and we'll be a partner with you. That's great.
Because I would like to use it at the Charité and then in the whole of Germany for my registry.
Excellent, perfect, we'll talk. We love that. We love having friends, meeting good friends, and keeping them and expanding. It's great.
Hi, I'm an OT from Denmark, and I'm also interested in, are you working with anyone in Denmark to
I'll have
make
to
a
ask
translation?
Ardrey makes places roots everywhere, and she's terrific, so I'll validate, but I don't think so as of the moment.
Yeah, but we need it in Denmark too.
So just make sure you come back and talk to me and give me your contact information. Okay.
I was impressed by your team, really very much. And I would like to ask you, how do you collaborate with other professions, like the medical doctors or the physiotherapists, or I don't know. How do you also have common research.
No, we do. So we are very lucky again at the Shriners because we have the fathers of OI research that are there that have built the interdisciplinary team. So Ardrey's a nurse scientist, but every project we do as our nurse has our nursing team, which they're not all nurses, but also the clinicians who work in the clinic. That helps with the knowledge translation piece because it doesn't matter if you just publish your studies and they stay in a journal. You need your clinicians and your frontline staff to implement it. So every article that you see published includes frontline clinicians and the team that are working with our population. And Dr. Rauch is the supporter of Ardrey's work in the background as well. It doesn't work if you don't include everybody, and she's phenomenal at doing that. And now she's supervised students from all other disciplines, not just nursing. And that's a key point, so thank you for asking. But it's also key that they're not just interdisciplinary researchers, that you should also include your frontline clinicians, and that it goes a long way.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, thank
Looks like
you.
you got some new friends now.
Yes.
Yeah.